You've been criticized for this. You've met with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and as part of the campaign, when you're running for president, got criticized for not calling him a war criminal. What's the right way to meet and communicate with these kinds of leaders?
We, as I just stated, we need leaders who have the courage to meet not just with allies, but with adversaries in the pursuit of peace, in the pursuit of increased understanding. If policies are being made through the lenses and the barriers of bureaucrats and the media and others who have or may have their own interests, our president, a leader, can't make, even members of Congress can't make decisions with the kind of clarity that we, the American people, need them to make. I think that these kinds of engagements are weaponized and politicized as they were against me by those who have their own interests, whether it be the military-industrial complex or in Washington. If you're not part of the official narrative of the U.S. government, which was intent on a regime change war in Syria, then you're an outcast. And it was unfortunate because people levied all kinds of accusations and smears against me for going and having the audacity to go and learn more, try to seek the truth in the hopes of preventing more needless war and in the hopes of preventing yet another quagmire and disastrous war in the Middle East. And simply foregoing and, yes, meeting with Assad, also meeting with religious leaders in Syria, also meeting and talking with people on the streets of Damascus, talking with college students, talking with people from the opposition party who would like to see Assad replaced, talking with local law, just a whole host of people over the course of a few days. The accusation was levied like, oh, she loves dictators. It's a sad state of affairs when some of the most influential voices in our country will label someone a lover or supporter of dictators simply because you're saying, hey, we shouldn't be going to war. There is another way. And I'm not alone in this. People who were against the war in Iraq were given similar labels. Until it became, popular in our politics to have been against the Iraq War. We see the same thing now with people like Tucker, myself, and others who are saying we should not be waging this proxy war against Russia via Ukraine and using the Ukrainian people's lives in this war. Well, now all of a sudden you're a Putin lover or a Putin puppet or whatever, the traitor, treason, all of these accusations that are used ultimately by people who are not interested in having a substantive conversation about the truth, about looking at these wars and conflicts, with a comprehensive view on exactly all the dynamics that are at play. And that's what I found when I came back. I went to Syria looking forward to coming back and shedding light on different perspectives, experiences, and stories that I found that would give people a more broad understanding of what was happening in that country. And what I found was there was zero interest in the mainstream media or in Congress in hearing any other perspective other than their own, which was, we need to launch this regime change war through the use of arming and equipping known terrorists within Syria to overthrow the regime, without any idea, without them stating any realistic idea of who would take control once Assad was overthrown. But the reality actually being that no matter which opposition group they might try to prop up, they would not have the power to withstand the terrorist groups whose stated goal it was to go and take over power from Assad. They had no interest in trying to gain true understanding. And it was very disheartening. It was very disheartening, and a big lesson learned about where their interests really were focused.
Yeah, it's a simplistic narrative template that's fit into every single situation. A lot of stuff is not talked about in the Russia-Ukraine war. One of the things that's not talked about is, okay, so Putin is overthrown. Then who do you think will come into power?
Exactly.
And one of the things I talk about with Aristovich is that Putin, and he gets criticized for this, that Putin, out of all the people that might take power, is the most liberal, is the most dovish.
Mm.
In fact, every indication shows that he really hates this war.
Mm.
And so everybody that will step in, if he steps down or if he is overthrown, is just going to accelerate this war and the expansionism and the thirst for empire and all that kind of stuff that the U.S. military industrial complex will feed into. So you have to think about what the future holds and what the different power players are and what the level of corruption there is, and sort of the realistic view of the situation versus the idealistic view of the situation.
Just on that note, real quick, I think that was exposed in broad daylight when it appeared that, you know, the former head of the Wagner group was about to try to launch a coup, and how that was so celebrated, even on, you know, like MSNBC and Rachel Maddow and others touting that this was somehow going to be a great thing, without looking at, you know, who is this guy really? What has he been doing in different countries around the world? And what would be his kind of ruling philosophy, and how that would differ or benefit American interests or the interest of security and peace.
But also the interest of Ukraine and Russia
True.
and humanity overall. Just
True.
the flourishing of nations, which is great for everybody, and collaborations with nations.
I agree.
Friendly competition. You know, one of the things I love about the 20th century is the friendly, sometimes not so friendly, competition between the Soviet Union and the United States in space, in the space race. That's created some incredible engineering and scientific breakthroughs and all of this, and also made people dream about like reaching out to the stars. And
Yeah.
war destroys all of that, or damages it. Hopefully just damages it. Hopefully the phoenix will rise again.